In this video, we're going to learn how we can use sliders to evaluate expressions. That means we're given some expression and then we're told what we want the variables to be equal to. And we can use Desmos to plug those values in for us so we can come to a final answer. Some important things to note that you can see on this page, that if we try to use lowercase x, lowercase y, or lowercase e in Desmos to make a slider, it's not going to work for us. For example, if I, in this problem, have x equal to -2, if I go to Desmos and type in x equals -2, it's going to graph a line for me, but it's not going to create a slider where I can change the value and I can plug it into an expression. So in order to combat this, we can either use capital X. So if I make this capital X, I can make it work. As you can see, I made it a slider, which means I can change the value. The other thing I can do is I can just assign it a different letter. So if I want to change X to A, then anywhere in my expression, I would just type the letter A where X is. I would pick one method and then stick with it. So if you always want to change it to capital X and capital Y, do that. In fact, that's the method I would use. If you always want to change X to A and Y to B, then do that every time. Just use the same method every time. So in this example, we want to evaluate 3x squared minus 4yz. So I'm going to type it in here. I'm going to replace x with a capital, replace y with a capital, and z can be lowercase z. You can make it capital Z if you want to, just to be consistent. And then it's going to ask you if you want to add a slider for those letters, and you can click all. And now we can go change these values to the ones we're given. So x is -2, and I can just type it in there. Y is 3, and Z is 5. You can move the sliders around, but I personally find it slightly frustrating to get to the exact number I want. So I just type them in there. And then in our box or cell that has our expression in it, Desmos is going to plug those numbers in for us and evaluate it for us, and we are going to get -48. And you can see that here in the example that would be our answer. It's plugged -2 in for x, 3 in for y, and 5 in for z, and we get -48. So anytime we are given values to plug into some expression, we can use these sliders to help us. We could do this by hand, of course, but this saves us from making mistakes as long as we know how to operate with the sliders. So I don't have to change anything here because A, B, and C are acceptable letters to plug in. So I can just type the expression in. Remember, to get the cube root, you type CBRT and it'll make it for you. One thing you got to make sure you do here is we need to exit the cube root now after we type the letter A. So you have to press the arrow over button to get out of the cube root. Oops, I did it in. I'm going to press the arrow over button to get out of the cube root and then continue typing. If I didn't do that and I continued typing, everything I typed would be under the cube root still, and it's not going to look like the expression I have on my paper. And so I know I've made a mistake. I got to delete those two things, hit the right arrow, and now I can keep going. To get square root, I can type SQRT. Again, I got to hit the right arrow and get out of there before I do +9. Otherwise, the +9 will stay underneath the radical. I'm going to ask it to make sliders for all of my letters. And then just be careful and make sure you're plugging in the right numbers. It's going to make the sliders in order of the way they show up in the expression, not in alphabetical order. So I want to make sure I plug in the right number for C, which is -4. And then B is 16. And when I come up here, I find my answer. There it is. This expression is 35. I'm going to do one more. I want to know here which of these numbers, if I plug it in for x, is the cube root of x going to be equal to 5 times the cube root of 7? So I can use a slider to evaluate this expression. I'm first going to do 5 times the cube root of x, or of 7, to see what that equals. And now I'm going to type in the cube root, and I'm going to use capital X because I can't use lowercase x and make a slider. And so now I can take the answer choices and make capital X those answer choices and find out which one makes this decimal match this decimal. So it's not 35. It's not 245. 875 makes these two decimals exactly the same. That means when I plug 875 in here, it's going to have the same value as this number, 5 cube root 7. And so that would be my answer.